a story that really has many of the dynamics on display that we notice in the Western Hemisphere and in the interactions between Europeans and the indigenous of the Western Hemisphere. Now this takes place in 1536. Jacques Cartier was an explorer from France, and he was going up the St. Lawrence River, and he got stranded near Montreal, and they got stuck in the ice in that area. But he had a bigger problem than that, is his men were sick. He had 110 men with him, and 25 of them were dead already, as we know now that this was scurvy that they were dying from. He had 85 men left out of his 110. Now 75 of them were sick, so you can picture you've only got 10 able-bodied men now to look after these other 75, and you're trapped in the ice in the St. Lawrence River. Now a Huron chief, because they were near Montreal. Montreal was a city back in 1536, just like it's a city now. It was a much smaller city, but it was a city nevertheless. Now a Huron chief showed Cartier and his men how to make a tea, and he gave them some material to make the tea out of. It came from a tree, and they were told to drink this tea every 2 days, which they did. And what choice did they have, right? So now within 8 days they were all cured, and they basically got back to health. Shortly after that they were all back to health. Now we know today that vitamin C deficiency is what causes scurvy, and this is true not only in North America but Mesoamerica and South America. They knew about scurvy, they knew about vitamin C, they knew where to get vitamin C, and that's why this Huron chief, he immediately knew what was wrong with these people, and he gave them this so that they would have the vitamin C. Cartier was so impressed, he wanted to find out more about this tree, and he did take a sapling of that tree back to France to give to the king. And they planted that sapling and it grew, but over time it was forgotten. And people were still dying of scurvy. Europeans were dying of scurvy in the 1600s and 1700s still. Now scurvy's been, again and again, scurvy has been cured down through history. So this wasn't anything new, but it's interesting to note that the indigenous were aware of that. In fact, you can read, if you look up scurvy, you'll see again another example of a European guy who's credited with that somewhere back in the 1700s. Now, how did they repay them for their hospitality and for this gift of these 75 sick men, bringing them back from impossible death? Well, as many people were tricked in those days onto their ship, they tricked and kidnapped the chief. They kidnapped 2 of his sons. They kidnapped 4 children, and they kidnapped 3 other adults. 10 of the indigenous in all were kidnapped and taken back to Europe, and they were all dead within a year.